Welcome to the Practically Speaking podcast from Independent Advisor Solutions by SEI. In this podcast, we help advisors find solutions and share best practices for practice management, technology, social media, improving the client experience, and working with millennials. Our team share insights, experiences, and tools learned working with advisory firms across the country. Join us on this journey as we uncover the best practices to provide financial advisors with solutions to help advisors grow, differentiate, and create efficiencies in their businesses.
Hello and welcome to another podcast. Today we are interviewing the head of Next Gen at the Independent Advisor Solution by SEI, Brian Briggs. Brian is one of the bloggers at the Independent Advisor Solution, and he is in charge of helping people hire, attract, retain, and really communicate what this next generation of advisor is talking about, what their needs are, and really who they are as human beings. So we're super excited to pick his brain, and he wrote this great blog called On the Contrary, Unicorns Do Exist. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey Matt, how you doing today?
I am doing very, very well, and I'm so interested in why you're saying that unicorns do exist. So where did the onus of this article come from?
Well, the premise of this article and my cohort on Practically Speaking, John Anderson, who is also my boss, I went directly with one of his blogs, and unicorns don't exist. And the premise of this is this. If you're a financial advisor and you're looking to recruit, retain, build new advisors within your practice, what you want to do is to be able to find good talent. And the thought process of hiring someone off the street today to fill that role as the next generation or the next evolution of your practice doesn't exist. And so my blog, in terms of On the Contrary, they do exist, comes directly at the fact that if you take the time to immerse yourself in the community, to direct yourself with Financial Planning Association, for example, to connect back with your organization or university or college that you went to, you can find that unicorn. They actually do exist. You just have to put the time in nourishing them and helping them grow within your practice.
All right, Brian, I'm going to play devil's advocate right out of the gate here, because very few advisors are willing to put that time in, even if this person is going to be their potential succession plan. How do you prepare both sides of that equation?
So, and I would say, that's the idea, right? So we can say devil's advocate, it really doesn't happen. We're not willing to put the time in. And I would say, no, we are willing to put the time in for the right opportunity. It's very difficult for most of us, whether we're talking about our careers, our finances, our children, to think, 15, 20 years out. But I think as it relates to growing along the way, and that's the important part of this, is not just looking at right now in the end game. It's about the journey. Right. So if I'm having an equal share in growing within the firm, if I have the same opportunities that you have as maybe the partner of the firm, I think that, I can see the end of the road. Right. I'm experiencing growth along the way. So when that succession actually happens, when that transition between me and the potential partner of the firm occurs, it's already happened. It's happened organically. It didn't happen in a couple of days or 30 days. It happened over a course of a career.
All right. What sort of resistance have you gotten from the old fogies here who are looking at a blog like this and saying, man, this is never going to happen? Or, I'm never going to find that 30-year-old junior wealth advisor. They're not going to be me, because I know that's a big one, dude. So let's talk about that. Let's pause the other stuff. They're not going to be me. There a lot of advisors for a succession plan, they look for a mini me. What do you say about that?
I think, in any firm you want to evolve. So if you are of the mindset that I'm looking for me, you have to almost take a look in the mirror and say, well, what was I 20, 40, 35 years ago, right? You had to start off somewhere. You had to get to a point where you had a book of business. You were well known in the community. You had to build that. And that takes time. Any mature, profitable practice takes time. It doesn't happen in day one. So I would challenge that advisor that says that, I'm looking for a mini me. Think of who you are. Think of where you got to where you are. Most advisors don't want to hire a young advisor because, A, they don't have profit, right? They don't have a book of business that is profitable. And then secondly, they may not have the skills in order to gain and work with individual clients, particularly those who may be of the same mindset of you, right? I want to work with someone who looks and talks and has experiences as me. But think about this. Think about having someone alongside of you that can share those experiences with you. Think about someone who can share the growth in your company and share the other side to that, right? Because you may not be able to connect with the younger clients, the younger surgeon who's just coming into a substantial amount of wealth with his or her career. How can you connect with them? So I think it's more of addressing the idea that, yeah, you may not find a mini you, but you can find someone completely different than you that provides you with the growth opportunity to connect with new clients.
You used a sports analogy in your blog. I love the sports analogy. You mind sharing that with us?
Sure. So again, my fearless leader, John Anderson, who is from Chicago, an avid Bears fan. Again, this was to poke a little fun at him. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers. We all know him as the great athlete that he is today. But if you think about when he came into the league, he was a late first-round pick. You can see the picture of him sitting and waiting in the first round before a couple of other quarterbacks and other great athletes got drafted before him. And that also paints the picture of, again, waiting in the wings, right? The success may not come at that moment. But to get back to your question, Matt, in terms of Aaron Rodgers, he had to wait. The organization had a vision that, Brett Favre is still in his prime. He's still a quarterback, but Aaron Rodgers was going to be the quarterback of the future. So I translate that back to working with advisors. If you bring in that talent now, right, you're still at a point where you're growing your practice. It's not at a point where you're looking to leave the practice. You do it while you're still in growth mode because you want the person or the next phase of that business to experience the growth along the way. You don't want to experience just the downside because candidly, as a candidate, what's attractive to me for something that's on the downside? I want to be a part of the upswing. So I use that analogy, Matt, as a means of illustrating that, number one, the Packers are currently better than the Bears. That's arguably true or not. But then also, too, it's about kind of being a part of the success, not waiting until that success is already peaked.
Well, I'm processing everything that you just said there because that's such a great perspective to have walking in, especially from a younger advisor's perspective. But are you being a little idealistic? So many advisors from a succession plan, they want to be 5 and out. Or if it's a fire sale, it's way worse than that.
Right.
How do you convince the advisors that are listening to this right now, who are the average age of a financial advisor, which is like 56 and a half, right, in the United States? That's crazy. How do we convince them? Because Brian, just so you know, I'm right here with you. I want everything that you wrote in this blog to happen in our industry because this is perfect from a coaching perspective, from any sort of consulting perspective. This is exactly where they need to be. Sell me on this, man. Help me understand how I can change hearts and minds and how you can too to make this happen.
Well, I would throw a stat out to you, Matt, and while I don't have the source, I want to kind of paint the picture in general terms that by 2020. Millennials will, in fact, be the largest working generation in the workforce by 2020, right? So that's not 15 years from now. It's literally called a year and a half from now that millennials will be the largest generation in the workforce. So the earning power is there. Millennials are at a point. I'm 36 years old, Matt. So if you think about that, I'm an old grizzled millennial, but I'm still very much so a millennial. So breaking down the walls of what a millennial is, they're very much so 25 years old and still looking to get into the career. But you find a lot of millennials that are at a point where they're slightly maturing in their careers, right? We're in a spot where we are in the prime earning years of our career. We're looking to create not just paying down student debt, but to offset wealth. We are an opportunity as an investor, right? So I point that out to you. The second step I'd point out to you, Matt, is the industry is changing, right? If you look at the advent of robo-advisors, that's not something that's going away. That's something that the industry faced, had fear with, adjusted to, and is now a part of our everyday lives. But if you think about how most millennials want to work with a financial advisor, it's not always the sit-down conversation and talking about, the country club that I'm a member of and the lavish vacations that I go on. The conversation is about, look, I'm looking to grow my family. I'm looking to do all the things, Mr. and Ms. Advisor, who may not fall into the millennial generation that you were doing 20, 30 years ago. So I think it's an opportunity. Things are a cycle, right, Matt? You think about fashion. My wife is very much so, almost too much into fashion sometimes. But she always tells me that fashion will always recycle itself. And I come back to the financial advisor industry, that many of the same issues, many of the same problems that some of the older generation was facing, we are now, as older millennials, right, more mature millennials, we are now facing those same issues. We need wealth management. We need the opportunity. We will be a large part of the workforce, and even on the top end, we'll be the individuals earning the big six-figure salaries, and we'll need financial advice and financial planning and financial wellness to help us reach our goals.
I love how you said earlier that millennials specifically, or even younger people like the surgeon that you're referring to, she's about to really get a windfall of cash for a substantial amount of time. They're not going to want to sit down with, super old fogey guy, right? They're going to want to sit down with somebody who, just like you said, looks so much more like them. I love that point. And you also said that advisors should look in the mirror, right? And really think about what their life was like when they were 25, 35, 40 years old. I wish more advisors would do that. And I hope that through your blog and through what you all do at the Independent Advisor Solutions Department, really help bring that awareness. And I know, Brian, that that's your major focus. So I personally want to thank you for the hard work that you're doing. It's so, so, so needed. To wrap up today's podcast, you have a quote in the blog that I want you to read, if you don't mind. I don't normally do that, but I love it. It's one your friend who's the 30s millennial advisor. And then I want to talk about action items. Like, what can advisors do who are listening to this podcast? What is something that they can immediately implement or quickly implement to start this process so that they can have a great succession without having a fire sale?
Sure. And thank you, Matt. I appreciate the insight you provided. I want to get better at this. I want to perfect this craft, and I want to be able to position this thought process to investors like yourself, advisors, and listeners in general, right? Because I think that we all need help getting to the next phase. But in terms of actionable items, number one, develop a program, and I think that's key. Is we can talk about the evolution, we can talk about things, but until we actually develop and have something in place, we can then begin to look at what's the process behind that. Who do we want? Where do we want to target? But develop a program. I think the next step, and this is the most crucial step in this entire process, at least in my opinion, what is the identity of your firm? And where do you want your firm to be? And this is in many areas. John talks about this a lot with other portions of his blog, the perception of what you provide, the fees, things of that nature. But when I say about the culture of the firm, where are you looking to take your firm to, right? And what does your firm mean to the people that you serve now? Because I think as you begin to think about the culture of your firm, if you're identifying a succession plan, that person or those individuals should embrace the culture that you have in place. I should want to be excited to walk into a mature firm and say, I'm a part of something great. I'm looking to take it to the next level and be a part of that, but I'm a part of something day one. Great. So what is your purpose? I think that's the biggest thing, because that really helps breed the culture both now and going forward. The last piece is identify your sources. Where are you looking to obtain new talent from? And what I mean by that is, I mentioned my friend. My friend and I, we went to college together. We've had our families together. Like, we've grown together from where we started, and that was in college. I think about that. If I were to go back to my college, how many individuals could I look and say, you'd be a good fit to work with me in whatever capacity, based on the culture of the college, right? Because we're very attached to where we went to school in most cases. Think about that. Think about your affinity group that you work with outside of your day-to-day operation. Think about your religious affiliation, right? If you're going to a church, a synagogue, where are the people that you're spending your most time with? Who are the people that you're serving? So it's a constant organic representation of who you are, who you serve, and who do you want to be. And I think those are the three key steps in helping identify if you're looking to embrace this next generation. It's coming, Matt. Whether we want to or not, it's coming. How are you looking to embrace that and integrate that process into your firm?
Can you read that quote? Because I think that would sum up everything you just said perfectly, and then we'll wrap up the podcast for today.
Sure. So, I said, one of my really good friends who's a mid-30s millennial said, advisor said it best. It took me a while to realize that I didn't have to be my boss to be successful. I just had to be willing to compliment him. And the reason for that is you can't be the person that you're looking to replace. And it can't be a replacement. But if it's a partnership, if you are both growing together, or the group and you are growing together, you all have the same goal, right? We're looking to grow, we're looking to move forward, and we're looking to be a better practice in the future.
And all men to that. That is fantastic. Brian, thank you very much for your thought leadership today. I really, really appreciate it. And the blog is still up on the website, and we'll make sure that we put that in the show notes. But anything else that you want to say in closing before we wrap up today?
No, I think, in terms of the blog, I challenge everyone who's an avid follower of the blog to read all the content. You're talking to me today, John Anderson, Ali Carey, whether it be Rafe, or, Heather Wilson. We all have really good thought processes, and I think that it's not independent towards each subject matter expert. It's a collective we. And we really put our heads together and try to make this actionable items that can help all of our clients, all of the people that follow us, to move to a better place. So I just want to say that we're all working hard together to reach the next steps.
Great team. And you are all going to be hearing more and more from that entire team as we continue to develop this podcast. If you are a financial services professional who reads the blog, who is now absorbing the podcast, or if you're a younger advisor and you're listening to this podcast and you're like, man, what Brian said is totally resonating with me, you need to share this podcast. You need to have an intelligent conversation, and you can lean on the Independent Advisor Solution Division at SEI to help you with this. There are some amazing resources that they have there that can help facilitate these conversations, even give you talking points, much like Brian just gave us today, for you as the younger advisor to bring to an older advisor, your potential successee. And if you want to bring somebody who's going to be your successor and you want to have these conversations, make sure you lean on the team because they can help you have that great conversation. So for everybody at the Independent Advisor Solution Group at SEI, Brian Briggs, and everybody on that team, this is Matt Halloran, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.
Thank you for listening to the Practically Speaking podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. Information provided by Independent Advisor Solutions by SEI, a strategic business unit of SEI Investments Company. The information covered and posted represents the current views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Independent Advisor Solutions, SEI. Guests are not affiliated with SEI or its subsidiaries. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.